In my early 30s, I bought my first rental property. I always wanted to be a real estate agent and own my own properties because I watched my parents do the same and they loved their jobs. They were the type of landlords that were always quick to respond and who would go the extra mile to help a tenant or client out. The day I signed the paperwork for my first rental property, I was beyond excited. I was cautiously excited, I should say. I kept going over what could go horribly wrong now that I was solely in charge of multiple units, but I also couldn't wait to start fixing them up and putting my own personal flair on them. Of course, my first property wasn't perfect. The apartments were going to need some updating, but with the help of my dad, I was able to negotiate the seller down to a very reasonable price, so that I had the budget room to make all the repairs and updates necessary. What I didn't know at the time is that I was actually not being told the entire story about the property, but we'll get to that later. From my dad's office, I headed straight to the property. I wanted to go straight over and make an official record of what all I needed to have done and what I wanted to get done if there was room in the budget after. I was in Unit 4, writing down some measurements for new appliances and fixtures, when I knew I heard a knock at the door. Of course, I wasn't expecting anyone, but I thought maybe my dad had made his way over to congratulate me again and maybe talk renovations with me. At the time, I completely forgot that he had just handed me the only set of keys for the building, at least that I was aware of. I made my way over to the door, cautiously opening it, just in case it wasn't Dad, and someone had followed me in. But there was no one. The knocking noise happened again, and I realized it was actually coming from the entryway closet. "Oh, that's not creepy at all," I said out loud, laughing. I flung the closet door open, not expecting anything to be in there, but needing to make sure there wasn't a mouse or something rattling around in there, as the building had sat vacant for about a year. Upon first glance, there was nothing, but something in the corner of the closet caught my eye. On the top shelf, in the way back corner, was a small box. I felt conflicted. If it was someone's personal belongings, I should have my dad contact the previous owners to see if they could track down the last tenants. But on the other hand, I bought the building, so technically it was my property now, and I was intrigued. I decided not to let curiosity get the best of me for the time being, at least. I figured I'd call my dad and ask his advice when I left. My phone rang, and it was my wife, who had just had a baby 3 weeks prior, so I answered it immediately, in case she needed something. She was in the middle of telling me all the cute things our daughter had done that morning, when I heard laughing in the hallway. "Hang on, honey, I just heard laughing in the hallway. I swear it was 2 children, but that's not really possible. I was careful coming in," I said. "Please be careful, just in case it's a trap," she said, sounding extremely concerned. "I'm sure it's fine. At the very worst, I'm sure it's a couple of children who thought it would be funny to slip in the door after me," I said. My wife watched an abnormal amount of true crime stories, and sometimes she could turn the simplest thing into some elaborate plot. I always teased her for it. I cautiously stepped out into the hallway, looking first to the left, but something out of the corner of my right eye made me quickly snap my head to the right. "Well, I was right. Who do I have here?" I said, loudly enough for the 2 kids at the end of the hall to hear me. "Honey, I'll call you back. There's 2 kids in here, and I want to make sure they find their way back to their parents," I said. But as I hung up with her, promising to call her back the second they were gone, the 2 girls took off running, laughing. I chased after them, but they were long gone by the time I got to the end of the long hallway and turned the direction they had. "Note to self, hit the gym more often," I said, out of breath. sure that they had left, I retreated back into Unit 4 to call my wife back and let her know what happened. Right as I was about to hit the call button, I heard them again. Stepping out into the hallway, I jumped because I didn't expect them to be standing right outside the door. "What are you two young ladies doing here?" I asked. "Are you lost? I can call your mom if you want me to," I said. They just continued talking amongst themselves as if they didn't see me, which was quite odd. "What is that guy doing in our house? Do you think he's a friend of Mom's?" one of them asked. "No one lives here, young lady, but I can help you find your mom," I said. But as I was talking, the girls stepped right through me into the apartment. I mean through me, not through the door. I turned to sit down before I passed out and realized they were gone. I sat on the floor replaying what just happened over and over, trying to make sense of it, but I just couldn't. There was no explanation, except that I had just seen two ghosts. Once the room stopped spinning, I rushed over to the box, feeling compelled now to open it. I almost passed out again when I saw the top item in the box was a picture of the two girls I had just seen. I also found newspaper articles about a home invasion that happened in apartment number 4. It was the middle of the night and everyone was asleep. The intruders later reported they didn't know the couple had children, and they panicked and took them out too, because they had woken up during the incident and were old enough to be able to describe them to police. There were no survivors in the incident, and according to a few other reports I found online, the building was never the same after that. Most of the tenants were up for lease renewal in the following months, and none of them renewed after that incident, not feeling safe. The owners ultimately ended up selling it after offering to help the remaining tenants by giving them all their deposits back in full and allowing them to break their leases early. Luckily, there are plenty of people still willing to live in a haunted building. Whether they are complete non-believers, they wanted to have a haunted apartment for mad street cred, or they just needed somewhere affordable bad enough to ignore the dark history. Thank you so much for sharing your story. My old apartment building was haunted as well, and this story brought up some memories. If you have a paranormal story to share, email it to the address in the description below. Please like the video and subscribe. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.